and calling for anti-racism demonstrators in Walthamstow last night to cut fascist throats. Well, today we've heard the Prime Minister is chairing a Cobra meeting over the recent unrest, though planned action and counter-demos last night remained largely peaceful. Barbara Phillips, chair of the Race and Ethnicity Equity Board at the Prca, that's a trade association for the PRP and communications industry, joins me now. Afternoon to you, Barbara.
Good afternoon.
What sorts of questions, then, have you yourself faced, along with colleagues, certainly from comms companies over the past week? You know, what insights have they been keen to get in terms of dealing with information, misinformation, disinformation around the protests?
I think generally people who are professional communicators understand how narratives work, understand how stories are told, and understand how people use information for their benefit. So I think in our industry, we understand that, but the general public doesn't. The general public will think, you know, if this story has come out in a certain way, sadly, that is the truth. And the only good thing about social media, one of the best things about social media now, is that you can fact-check things. So I think generally there needs to be more education, if you like, or just more knowledge on how stories are created, how they get into the media, you know, how they land in the newspaper, how they land on social media. Because if you're in this industry, you understand everything isn't as it seems.
Sure, absolutely. Do you think then, Barbara, the way that the government and senior police responded to the riots with clear messaging, in particular on culprits facing swift justice, you know, was that spot on, and perhaps that helped to quell any further disorder which had been planned for last night?
I think eventually we got there. I think in these scenarios, language is really, really important. And I personally would have liked to have seen the government and the constabulary use, you know, plain language. It took a long time to call this behaviour racist thuggery. I mean, they're still referred to as protesters. And if you actually look up the term protester in the, you know, under the government ideas of what we should be doing as protesters, it goes completely outside of that. They are rioting. So I would have liked to have seen the language of, you know, rioting. They are rioters. It is thuggery. It is criminal. It is unlawful. I'd like that to have come through a little bit quicker. And also, you know, with not wanting to shock anyone, it is terrorism. It's domestic terrorism. There's fascism there. There's even white supremacist aspects of this. And that should be used so people are clear what's happening here.
Yesterday, just finally then, Barbara, we heard, didn't we, from many people, businesses, about how they were deliberately closing up early, sending their staff home, obviously for their own safety, boarding up windows. For many firms, it must have been a really hard challenge, decision, though, to judge what was the right thing to do, certainly when it came to supporting staff.
I agree, and I think the people who took those precautions had a huge role to play, and I think it's important that the most important thing was safety. Because there were so many unknowns, because there were so many knowns, i.e. if you looked black or brown, you're likely to be targeted. I think safety was the most important thing. So having to board up might have had financial implications, but that's, you know, secondary to the safety of the people who work for you or the people in your community.
Good to catch up with you, Barbara. Thanks for your insight. Appreciate it. Barbara Phillips there, chair of the Race and Ethnicity Equity Board at the Prca.
This is LBC News.
Elsewhere today, authorities in Austria swear today,